All right,
I think we
fellas.
got it.
Oh my God, dude. This is unreal. What are we doing here? This is fucking
Uh,
amateur hour.
you got a bunch of
Jesus.
dads. You got a bunch of fucking dads trying to do everything. My
I,
God.
I, and don't get me wrong here. Ever since that you had mentioned having it on YouTube, I go and I started like looking into like how connecting and how to do it. And I did like a test run a couple of days ago and I had everything connected up. Then all of a sudden, dude, like for whatever reason, I don't know. You mentioned you guys have like a wicked storm going on. We have the beginnings of it. I don't know if that's anything to do with the connection, but I tried going off of Wi-Fi and everything. Anyway, no, I appreciate you boys coming on and through the frustration, taking the time here.
Dude, we tried everything. We legit tried like YouTube and then like create a link didn't
Yeah,
work. I tried to add you. It was like you're not a content creator. I don't know what the fuck. So
it's insane. I know it was like trying to have me. I think at one point I added you as like a curator. Maybe possibly like you've now taken over my channel. Who knows what's going on? Who cares though? I mean, no, I appreciate you guys taking the time though, and this is so sick, man. First and foremost, thank you both for jumping on here tonight, and through the hoops of that, kind of getting past it and taking the time. First
for
and
sure,
foremost, I
for sure,
appreciate
man.
it. So as far as with the acts and with just different things, I'm going to try to try my best as far as this not being like a multiple hours thing from digging into stuff, but I guess even digging into earlier on, I know you guys both mentioned interest in skating and having different things earlier on, but as far as your earlier interests, even before punk or hardcore, where was your introduction as far as music and something that was particularly catching your guys' ears?
Yeah, it's first.
Well, my mom was like real into soul and stuff like that. So I grew up with like Earth, Wind, and Fire, and just like a lot of oldies and stuff like that. Just play around the house. So like music was always kind of just around. Yeah, my brother's like really into music, and he's 14 years older than me, so he had a big influence on what I'd hear and where I'd go with that and stuff like that. Like stuff like it showed me like The Cure and that kind of stuff, and
Okay.
yeah, like so a lot of like new wave kind of stuff like that. Like growing up, like real young, like we're talking like a little dude. Yeah, and then just from there, just you dig, you find things, you start reading liner notes, you find more shit, and you save up some money when you get a little older, buy a CD, maybe get some CDs for your birthday or something, and then you keep digging. It seemed like I couldn't find anything that I really liked until I got like probably in my teens, and that's when it all went downhill, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Josh?
At an early age, I remember my dad had the Chronic CD. I was probably like 4 or 5, and
Okay.
so like me and my older sister would be like, "What is this?" And like we'd open the CD case, and it's got like a huge pot leaf on it. We're like, "Oh, it's got like a weird tree on it. Like this is cool." And we put it on, and it was just like the most vulgar music like a child could listen to. And then my mom was really into like Nirvana and stuff. And so like that's how I got into like Nirvana at like an early age. And then she always had like Guns N' Roses CDs and like shit like that around the house.
Okay.
And
Hey, that
so
explains all your bad taste.
yeah. So yeah, she had a lot of that. And so like picking and choosing, like my dad was like always in like Bone Thugs and Harmony and stuff like that.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, so he had like a very like, hip hop type of like music taste. And my mom was like more like, alt rock and like I guess grunge and shit. And so, as I got older, I kind of like sifted through stuff that I actually liked and, cared about.
Your mom was a blue hair before the blue hair.
I mean, and it's funny that you bring up like the Chronic too, because like as influential as that album is, and like a classic, so to
Yeah,
speak.
no.
I remember doing like a borrow trade. I don't know if you guys did this in school where it was like, hey, for a CD or for a game, is like for a week, you would like, hey, we'll do like a borrow thing and you can keep that for a week or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I traded oh my god, a Sega Game Gear. Did you guys ever have one of those? It was like
Never had the
a
Game
Game
Gear.
Boy type thing, but it was anyway. It was a game, and I traded that for the Chronic for like a week. And I went to go and trade that back, dude, and there was no trace of that video game. So like, as much as I love that album, it brings me back to like losing that game and be like, damn, I want to love it, but it was such a bad taste.
We used to do that. We used to do like borrow trades for like skate videos.
Oh
Like I'd
yeah,
be like,
yeah,
"Yo,
okay,
let me borrow Baker 3, and you can borrow Zero New Blood or whatever." So we used to like borrow skate videos all the time.
okay.
So,
Skate videos are like what like really turned me on to like some of the best hip hop and some of the best music in
like
general.
hardcore,
Yeah, like I mean, like hearing like the faction on
the flip
Oh
video.
yeah.
and shit. Sorry, you know,
Yeah.
I was like, man, what the fuck? Like, but why not? Like, not only was that fucking scene like sick, but just like, yo, what was that band about the Cokes again? And this is like pre-internet, so you know we're just like rewinding VHS and like,
Yeah.
yo, like play that fucking.
This
And then
Gray
you
Matter song.
Right.
wait for the
Shit.
like, you know, wait for the band list to hit on the end credits, and you're like, damn, write that down, and then then you
Shit.
just try to find
Just
something.
a notebook paper full of just like punk songs and like shit like that. Like that's pretty much how I got into punk too. Like I've told you the story about that movie Lords of Dogtown.
Oh yeah, okay.
Where they're like at the fucking punk show and like that dude gets thrown through the window and they're all like, you know, fucking slam into, you know, Nervous Breakdown. But it's not
Oh, yeah.
it's not Flag playing Nervous Breakdown, it's fucking Rise Against
cover.
playing it. So like I'm on fucking AskJeeves.com trying to be like, yo, Rise Above, punk song, and then like looking up Rise Against, and I like download their songs on like Napster and shit. I'm like, this band sucks. Like this is not even the same band.
Clippy, like, yo, Clippy,
Yeah, Clippy,
It, like turns up like a mashup of like a Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit track. Like this wasn't what I downloaded.
yeah,
What's happening?
like you downloading some shit, and then like you know finally figured out like oh it was like a Black Flag song, and then like you know that what like Bad Brains, Minor Threat, like all like the you know the bands that were, like were in the videos for like the ones I was like oh shit like 13 years old. I'm like yo this is like like fast, aggressive, and then just skating.
I love that. And so, you know, like through different alternate, you know, motives. I mean, you or not motives, but like alternate ways of finding music. You know, you mentioned like skate videos. You mentioned different things as far as even, you know, like band flyers. Something I think that is, you know, to note with Youth Attack and through your guys' work, especially cover art. What comes to mind as far as, you know, things even going through? Was that something early on that would catch your eye where you would, you know, have a couple of bucks to buy an album and just randomly pick up something because of?
It was a huge deal.
Very first LP I ever bought was like some like bootleg of Negative FX like LP, and I was just like, yo, this has got Manson on it. What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Oh,
The album artwork is always like the big deal when it comes to like shit that I've bought, you know, growing up, shit that I like to put out. Like I want you to be intrigued immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, with McCoy, he's always like had an eye for that kind of shit.
yeah.
So,
If you're like, I'm still blind by something that catches my eye. It's pretty rare that I do, especially this age. But man, like if you have like some sick art that's intriguing, like that alone will go far.
no.
But now, I mean, bands have the sound and the look, but they don't have the riff. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, oh man, you got me. Like, you know,
I was going to bring up that contrary, like, you know, maybe earlier on having that $20 from like an allowance or a birthday or something. Did you have a time that you were completely hosed on buying something, or what was it?
there was like one birthday that all I wanted was like CDs. I can't really remember when, like what age.
Probably like 14, 15.
No, it was younger than that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's probably like 12 maybe, 12 or 11. I was like it was just like you know, listening to the radio and some shit, and I was like, oh, like I want this Stroke CD. I want, you know, just like whatever was around. I think my brother bought me like an Unwritten Love CD,
Okay.
And like just because based off like one song, I was like, oh yeah, like whatever. And then he's like, man, this whole thing sucks. Like, there's so many. There's so, I mean, that's like in high school. There's a record shop out here called Black and Red, and they used to have like a bin of like 50-cent CDs. So I like anything that looked punk or hardcore, I would just grab. And there was so much shit, like, you know, like, and this is before like the internet, so it's like, oh yeah, what's this throwdown thing? What's this? What's that? You know, and just grabbing all this shit. I had like the throwdown demo CD. God damn, terrible shit. So, and like, you know, because I already knew the sound I was looking for. Like in my head, I already knew that there was like more grotesque parts to punk than what I was like getting fed. So like the hunger was there, so I just kept digging and digging, and eventually got to where I wanted to get. But man, like there's a lot of bullshit CDs that you got to go through to find that shit.
And see, like kids nowadays, like they have it made, man. You could just go to YouTube. Like somebody just mentions the band name, you can find it like almost instantly, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, no, this is whack." But like back then, like you had to physically go buy that shit for it to realize that it sucked.
Well, what's funny too is like even if you had a CD that sucked, man, you're still playing that shitty CD because you're like,
I spent the money on this, yeah.
It was like such a sacrifice. Like, dude, this shit sucks, and I know it, but like, I have to sell it to my friends. I have to make everybody like buy into that this rules. God, it's so funny because like for so long, even having friends that were into heavy music or were into metal or hardcore or anything like that, a lot of times like I felt like it was almost like something just toward me as far as like going somewhere and picking something up from cover art, or you know, picking something up and just being like, oh man, this is horrible, but I have to sell myself. And coming to do these interviews, man, just like through thick and thin, there's so many cats that are like, I'm right there. I was in that same fucking spot, and it's refreshing.
Trial and error. That's all it was.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Like you get sold a package, like you know, like I remember, like there, like fucking like elementary school. There was a girl that was like all about Good Charlotte, and I like saw their poster like at like you know like one of the record stores.
Oh, this is punk.
And they're like, I was like, oh, they're like, it's like a punk band, like for real. And then I saw like some music video, like I don't know, a couple years later. I was like, that's what this band sounds like. Like, what the fuck? Like, you know, here I'm thinking, oh man, this is it, man. Like, motherfucker, she's over here listening to the, you know, American Gizm or some shit. And oh no, shit.
And it's such a bummer too when you finally figure that out, because it's like the image is there, and it's like, okay, like yeah, I can kind of get behind this. And you finally hear it, it's like, man, I can't do it. This is not where I want to be at for sure.
I mean, I think even early on, like, because I heard Slayer before I heard Metallica, and obviously, like, you know, where I'm listening is not, I'm not starting off with Kill 'Em All, you know what I mean? So like, whatever the fuck is out while I'm growing up, and I'm like, oh, like you find, like, you know, you hear all these stories and like, you know, see these promo photos, and you finally fucking hear the band, you're like, oh, this is it. This is what this fucking band sounds like?
I mean, so, and you touched on that, James, as far as like where it all went downhill. Where did that come into factor as far as like the earlier interest to like heavier music coming into the picture?
I had a friend in high school when I was 14, this dude Jesse, and he was like a street punk, like, you know, fucking Tri-Hawk and all this shit, you know, and he was a year older than me. So, and this kid just had like a great fucking like portfolio fucking music. Like he had like a whole binder full of shit that he just like, yo, you gotta listen to this, you gotta listen to that. And he was burning CDs, and I didn't have a computer until I was like 16, 17.
Okay.
Like I didn't have access to a lot of that shit. So like he'd be like, yo, you need to listen to this. He's like, you know, he's the one that turned me on to like detestation, like, you know, age 14. And I was like, God, yeah. Sure. So it was like and it's funny too because like every year he was into something else, and he was like all in or nothing. So like, you know, my freshman year he's fucking got this Tri-Hawk. The following year he's got a shaved head. You know, fucking like, oh, I'm into 80s hardcore and like just strictly 80s hardcore right now. And then, like you know, 6 months later passes and he's got like fucking, you know, he's growing his hair out. He's got the studded black denim, black stud fucking vest that, you know, it's like a battery patch on the back, you know, like now he's all in the fucking black metal and shit. And it was cool because like that kid had like great taste. So he'd be like, oh yeah, like here's this Minor Threat like demo CD. Here's you know, just whatever like I kind of had an interest in. And then that book, the American Hardcore book, came out, and it just had like a fucking whole like list of records on the back, and there was like I was like, oh, okay, I gotta hear this, I gotta hear that. So I just made lists and be like, yo, can you find this for me? And he would, you know, oh yeah, that's not very good, but here you go, and he give me some shit. And, you know, yeah, but it was cool. That guy like was definitely handy when it came to like finding more obscure stuff that I couldn't just be like, yo, like, you know, go to the record store and be like, can you guys order me this CD, or you guys have this like used record, or, you know, do you guys ever get this stuff in? Because yeah, back then too, like there wasn't like 2004, there wasn't a whole lot of like stuff circulating, and it was at that point it wasn't really like jock either. Like there wasn't like a
these bands didn't have a following.
Yeah, and there wasn't there wasn't a whole lot going on.
Now, do you? I mean, past that point, like, do you keep in touch with that dude at all?
You know, like not really, but every now and then I'll see him. Like I'll see him pop up at a show or something, and be like, holy shit. He'll be straight edge, you know, one year and then not the other year. You know what I mean? Like
still like a 6-year cycle.
The grab bag of subgenres, like what's this year?
But he's always really interesting, and he's very cool, man. I wish I could stay in touch with him. So
shit.
But,
okay. Well, what?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, yeah, like then, you know, like through that, doing your own digging and just picking up more and more records, you kind of fine tune. Like me, I'm very particular with the sounds. Like I probably really only like 5 hardcore bands ever. Like I really don't.
Okay.
I really don't like the genre. I really don't like it's a very, very like, I don't know. I'm just like just ultra picky. Like I like this rotten sound, and that's kind of all that it has to offer. And there's like, you know, maybe like 5 or 10 EPs that I'm like, yo, that hit it, and then like it's kind of it.
Can't replicate it.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But yeah, you know, you go through having all the surplus that you gathered up, and then you just whittle it down to what the shit that really matters and really influenced me, and then.
Because after so many years, a lot of this shit doesn't really hold up. Like,
yeah,
you know, you go back to like visit something from like '84. They're like, oh, I fucking love this. Like when I was 21, like 32, I'm like, yeah, this doesn't hit like what it once did. You know?
Yeah, like I ain't like I used to fucking like go bomb hills of the Bones Brigade, but you're not gonna fucking have me listen to that shit now. Like, I ain't listen to no trash. Like,
I mean, and so I guess, you know, touching on that a little bit, like having like a project like Cadaver Dog where that's solely you, where, you know, is it a process as far as like finally feeling comfortable with what it is that you're releasing, as opposed to, you know, it just seeming like you have to keep on editing or dwindling at it?
Well, like that band, I really painted myself into a corner, like intentionally. I was like, man, it has to sound like it's from this year to this year. Like as lame as that sounds, like I just wanted the challenge of like, all right, well, how the fuck would like, you know, Wide Eye and Negative Approach write a song in this time frame?
Oh yeah.
And so just like, how do I, you know, like how do I take their blueprints and put my own spin on it,
modernize it,
and that's just kind of like how it is. So it takes a long time for one, you know, fucking 30-second song to like be complete, because it's like there's only so much you can do within the restraints I put myself in.
Yeah.
So you know, it takes some fine tuning, it takes some, you know, a lot of editing and a lot of re-recording. But yeah, man, like eventually I'm happy with something, and that's kind of all I really care about. Like I don't I never really thought anybody would be into that sound because a lot of motherfuckers didn't mess with that kind of stuff. So it took.
Yeah.
I mean, it took the band a long time to kind of generate some kind of following, and it was even after like years of not playing. They're like, "The fuck, you guys like actually like this?"
Because the band's like 10 years old, right?
Yeah, band. Yeah,
10 years.
10, 11? Jesus.
Yeah, it's
I
been a
think it's
minute.
11 years that the demo came.
I just find it. Yeah, I think it was just the fact of you kind of mentioning, like the, the maybe like 5 bands, that still kind of remain your interest in as far as like being in something and how that process goes, like possibly even like in an OCD way of like being a little just this isn't ready yet. It might be 20 seconds, but I have to keep on going back and forth with it and finding tuning. So that's interesting. I dig that. Josh, what about you as far as we kind of touched on like earlier stuff, but where does heavier music end up coming involved for you?
I was probably like sophomore, junior high school, and one of my friends, who's still like one of my really good friends now, his name is Dustin. We grew up in North Texas together, and he was like several years older than I was, and we would fucking hang out. We like started like a band at some point that never really like turned into anything, but he like got me into a lot of like heavier like Slayer, I Hate God. Like he turned me on to I Hate God, and it's like still one of the bands that I like put on like to this day. And then he was like just getting into a lot of like older like Boston stuff.
Okay.
Like older, but like still like sort of like new. So like we were listening to like Death Threat and shit. Like, and this is like 12, 13 years ago. And so we were listening to like a lot of that shit. And so we got into like that kind of hardcore. And then we drove to California for a fest because like all these like bands are playing like 2009. And I was 19 at the time. And so like I got into like that style of like hardcore, like bands like Hatred Surge, who were from Texas, were playing Iron Age, like Mind Eraser and like shit like that. And like that's pretty much where it kind of like took off from there.
Okay. And I mean, from like these earlier interests and kind of like picking up on hearing different stuff, even per se, like a specific member from a band, kind of bring us back to like a first time where maybe a vocalist or a drummer or a guitarist really took you back to like thinking of like, how the fuck are they making this sound, or how did they play this, or just the anxiousness of their playing, like bring us back to something where a specific member of a band really took you off guard.
That's a fucking good question.
I mean, like Siege, like even like like Bubba Dupree's fucking guitar playing in Void. I'm like, dude, what are you really? I'm not gonna lie, man. I could pick apart pretty much anything, but that fucker, like, it'll challenge me to learn that stupid fucking riff. Like it'll frustrate me because like, look over here, I could play just about damn near anything, but I can't play this stupid like punk song. Like, what is going on?
Anything live by Siege, anything live by No Comment, like that dude guitar playing, I was like, I have no fucking idea what he's doing.
Or like Detroitson, man, like that was like really, really cool when I first heard like their full length, because I was like, man, like there's a lot of actual riffs here. This dude's not just playing power chords. Like there's some cool things, and he would manipulate his feedback and stuff, and I'd be like, damn, like. And then you watch like footage of them live, and he's doing like all those tricks live.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck is he doing this? Like, it's just cool because these guys. There was nothing to necessarily influence them to make those aggressive sounds. They were just like experimenting, and those are dudes that like took the time. They put the work in. You know what I mean? They learned their instrument. They learned their settings. They learned everything, like their bare bones equipment. They learned how to manipulate it into their favor and create these.
They didn't have a blueprint to go off of. Like, they were just fucking just doing it, because like our generation's like the generation's like, oh yeah, like fucking this one video of like Ass Suck, or this one video of Deicide, like like that tone, or like that, like whatever. And like those dudes just like, yeah, turn it on, fucking go. Like, you know. So
I think, even like out of initially the necessity of like not, having even earlier times of like YouTube or different things and just kind of like,
yeah.
okay, well, maybe if I'm just playing downstrokes as opposed to, tremolo or whatever with picking, like that'll give it a different sound, or, with drumming wise. James, when I hear some of the stuff that you do drumming and I'm like jumping on and I'm playing or practicing, every once in a while I'm just like, God damn, dude. Like, and I know, I know that you play drums in different bands and you have things, but I feel like you're primarily like, I guess, known for a front man, maybe, and maybe not. But I feel like just from like some of the records that I've ever known, it wasn't the drums. And then the stuff that I hear and the stuff that I listen to, I'm like, God damn, dude. Like, myself being a drummer, I'm like, shit, man, you got it going on.
I'm a guitarist, so like I essentially write
Makes sense
on the drums. Like I don't I don't consider myself a drummer by any fucking means. Like I can do what I need to do to execute what I like for the styles I want to play. But like I don't paradiddles and shit. Like I don't know what that is. Like,
yeah.
I don't know anything.
Reading sheet music and shit.
Yeah,
I don't.
right.
Even with guitar playing, I mean, it's the same way. But like I've spent years playing that. Like I can work my way around pretty much anybody, even if they're like far more advanced in like music theory or whatever. Like I can still like join in and like kind of figure something out. But like with drumming, yeah, it was something that was out of necessity. So it's like I feel like I do a lot of stuff that most drummers wouldn't think of, because it's like, well, yeah, dude, I'm not thinking in a drumming perspective. I'm thinking in a guitar perspective, and where I want the accent and where I want the fill and where what I want to do to like bring out the most in the riff.
Playing shit on the upbeat and
Okay. All right. And that it makes sense too. And this is going to sound completely stupid. And also myself, I mean, being self-taught and everything, I don't have any sort of like classical training or anything, but like thinking about like some of the different stuff or some of the different albums or some of the different things, as far as like your drum playing, it's almost like the right hand has the accent as if like it were strumming a guitar, like the hi-hat hand, or are you right-handed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It kind of makes sense. And there might be like a couple of things I'll have to like send like a clip through or whatever through like Josh, as far as I'm not thinking like offhand what it is now, but now that you're saying that, and like that being, like a primary thing as far as like guitar playing and your mindset going to that, makes a lot of sense. That rules. And like I say, that's sick. I love playing with the stuff. I love practicing with it. I'm like, God damn, dude. So as far as you guys' first instruments, how do those come along as far as, initially, you're coming into like thinking about maybe playing something as opposed to, going to shows or listening to music. How does that come about for you?
I bought my first drum set from a fucking electronics store. It was a
Did you get from the Best Buy?
No,
Best
it was from this place
Buy.
called Hastings. It was from this place called Hastings, and it was a Fender drum set, which like still to this day blows my mind. I'm like, what the fuck?
What?
And so everything was inside of it, like in the box. I bought it for like $150. It was brand new.
You got a Fender, bro?
Yeah, Fender. It was oh my God. It was like, because all the guitars like Stratocaster, like the drumming was like a Beatcaster or some fucking stupid shit. And
I've never
it
heard
was
of
like
a Fender drum set. Sick.
it was just black. I was like, yeah, it's a black drum set. I want that. And it just said Fender on it. Shit. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, like that's how I self-taught. Like I bought that in 2009, and I just self-taught, like playing just punk beats and shit.
Shit.
So
okay. I love that.
Yeah.
What drew you to the drums?
I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, I loved playing drums. My cousin had a drum set. He never played it, and so I would go over to my grandparents' house because that's where it's set up, and I would play on it. My dad would be like, "Shut the fuck up! Stop playing on it." Shut the fuck up! And so, and then like in
fuck
junior
you,
high,
Dad.
Fuck you, Dad. In junior high, I had a music class, and they had a drum set. And I always tell the music teacher, I'm like, hey, can I play like after school's over? She'd let me play drums for like half an hour.
Oh shit! Okay.
So I was obsessed with playing drums. I can't play guitar to save my fucking life. So it's either playing drums or doing vocals.
Same.
That's it.
Okay.
No, this motherfucker was turned over and slapped the bass
Nah,
the other day, man. A couple
alright.
things he was working on, so I was like,
Okay.
So
Discrediting
we're
himself a little
we're
bit.
gonna
Needs a
learn
little bit more credit than you're
some
giving.
I'm not a musician. I just play music. So,
I dig it. I completely. So when you're initially getting that first kit, like what were some of the first things that you were trying to play along with, or maybe like an album,
Blast
or if there was
beats.
a couple
I
songs?
was just trying
Really?
to play blast beats. I was trying to play as fast as I possibly could. I was in the
damn.
I lived. I was living. After I graduated high school, I was living with a bunch of friends in this like old condemned ass house. I lived in like the laundry room of the house, and so I literally had a fucking futon and this drum set, and I would literally roll out of bed in the morning, just blasting like early in the morning. And that's all I wanted to do was just play fast. Like I just wanted to master single pedal blast beats.
Damn.
And that's
Okay.
literally all I cared about. And then I still can't do it 10 years later.
I mean, it's tough, dude. Like for whatever reason, the first thing after I had gotten a drum kit, the first thing I had saved up for was a double pedal, and that was just because, like, for whatever reason, I thought like I just really wanted that. A lot of the stuff that I was playing with, I was always really big into thrash, and
Yeah.
I kind of learned drums on double pedal, and so like after maybe 10 or 15 years of playing, you know, it's been a thing where it's been like I've had to almost like reteach myself just playing single pedal and going as fast as I can and different like practices with that too. So that's funny and props
I'm
to
the
you,
way
you know,
like that now. I'm like that now with the double. I'm
Oh,
like, dude, I can't double.
okay.
He just got one, and I'm like fucking with it. I'm like, dude, and I'm like, dude, this fucking sucks. Like, I can't do this.
Just one implement, like one new element in the mix, makes you feel like you're like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
You have no clue.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, I swear to God, I can play a beat. Hold on.
It's just it's always off. Can't do it.
Damn.
Trying, but it's whatever.
Yeah,
dig it. I dig it.
My mom, I think for Christmas,
If you say
like I think I was
a
4 years
Tama
old.
guitar, dude, I swear to God.
She
She's got a pearl guitar.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
She got me some some knockoff brand. I actually have it sitting around there. I should see what it is, but it's like a little red Stratocaster looking thing.
Okay.
Actually, it's more like a Charvel body. It's like got but it's just a little red little thing, like little dude guitar, and it's it was something that I thought was cool, but like, you know, all I would do is like turn the volume all the way up, turn the gain all the way up. I'm fucking 4 years old, and just feedback and make noise and be like, oh, check it out. And then it wasn't until I got like I think around 9 that I was like I picked that thing up, and I was like trying to just play riffs or like write riffs.
Okay.
And my brother heard me one day. He's like, "You're playing that like little kid dinky guitar. Like, let's go get you a real guitar." And I think I was 10, and he bought me the guitar. I got a fucking Warlock.
Oh, B series.
Damn.
All black Warlock, and because I was like, yo, that's it. Like, if I'm getting a guitar today, that's it. So I got this Warlock, and man, that thing, like, I got kind of like, I just was like, I just don't know what I'm doing. So I just put it there in the corner. 3 years later, age 13, that's when I really started like actually writing stuff. And,
shit. Okay.
And then when I was 14, I met a few friends in school that were older than me that they had like, you know, it was like two brothers, these dudes, the Tafoya brothers, Patrick and Joe. They had like a drum set, and like Joe was a drummer and Pat was the guitarist, and we started jamming and, you know, making bands up and, you know, like just figuring shit out. And we were all into like different music, but we were just, you know, like kind of jamming. That was kind of like it wasn't my very first band, but it was the first band I was like playing guitar in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what, you know, like within, you know, actually trying to like structure some stuff, where would you kind of credit some of that as far as like earlier stuff that you were trying to learn or trying to play?
I don't know. Like, so I've never really been someone to like just like learn a bunch of other people's songs. Like I never was like
Now kids were always playing
like
covers and
yeah,
shit.
like
Yeah.
entertainment, like
4-year-olds.
getting played throughout like Guitar Center and shit. You know what I mean? It's like I never did that. I just would always just try to like write my own stuff.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I never really sat down and like oh yo, here's this song, but what if we play it in reverse and we'll call it our own? Like I would just I would just like that's what we would do in that band is we just try to like write our own things and structure it like collectively.
Okay.
We didn't really have like a blueprint. We were just like making noise. You know what I mean?
Okay. I dig it. Josh, what about you? How does the first band end up coming into as far as you initially playing alone and having fun with this?
I had a bunch of first bands that never went anywhere, so I'm trying to think of like.
Dude, my first band was called Calculating Genocide.
Fuck
it was
yeah,
a grind
that's sick.
band.
Sick.
I guess my first real band would be this grind band that I did. It was called Decayed Race, and I literally was like it literally took like crossed out style power violence, and then like I just had like my best friend I mentioned, Dustin. He was like into fucking death metal, and I was like, "Yo, do you play guitar in my grindcore band?" And it would look really cool if you did. And so like him and Josh played in that band. Yeah. And so like these two long haired motherfuckers are like playing guitar and bass. I'm playing drums and doing vocals. And so we're just structuring songs like fucking crossed out wood, but they're like tremolo picking everything. And where I'm just blasting on everything. Yeah. It was like that was probably that was like legit my first band. Like that was the band that like put a cassette tape out. Because everything before that was always just like, oh, let's start a band, and then we'd have a name, like 3 songs, and then I never see those people ever again.
That was kind of like a lot of shit that happened in Denver. Like, that's why, like, so Civilized was called Ego Complex, but with a different vocalist.
Okay.
Before it was Civilized, and so this Ego Complex, we were just like, we have to record something. So like, because I was like, man, this band's gonna break up next week, motherfucker. Like, let's let it down. So yeah, like we set in the 4-track and we just recorded like a rehearsal, and then that's kind of I'd say like the first thing that like I was like, all right, cool, let's do something. Because man, I was in all kinds of bands. Like there was a band Crawl before that. There was a band called
That was sick.
Expiation, and like Crawl at least got a demo out, but like we had like a whole other EP's worth of music written and recorded, and that never got finished. And it was just always something. Man. Like somebody within the crew would kind of always lose interest.
All the time. It was always like that.
And then it just kind of fizzles out. That's actually how I learned how to play drums, because the drummer of Crawl was like, yo man, I'm like way more into getting high and skateboarding. Shout out Roman. You're probably watching this. I don't know if you are, but
he's high right now.
Yeah, he's probably high. But he got really into skateboarding and just kind of like left his kid at my house. And I was like, well, fuck man, there's no drummers in this town. Like I'm gonna fucking learn. So like a year straight, I just played the drums and just like learned whatever I could. And, it's a lot of, to circle back to that fucking Negative Effects, there's a lot of those beats. I was like, man, this drummer is like the best drummer. If I'm going to, like, kind of try to base my drumming out for somebody to be, that full. And so, yeah.
Okay.
I was just like, it's just that abandoned kit that, and I actually had that until like,
oh my god, that was the same kid? Holy fuck.
Damn.
You had that shit for like fucking 14 years, dude.
So this was since you were
like
a teenager still? That was when you got it and you've just recently moved on from it?
I think I was around 17 or 18.
Damn.
He had it up until like a month ago. Not even, like less than a month ago. I helped him get rid of that shit. Shout out Roman. Sorry, dude. Your kid's gone, my man.
I was like, yeah, I took it to G.O.Y.L, man. He's like, oh yeah, don't make that shit.
I mean, so, and touching on, like some of those earlier shows, like obviously Denver has a lot going on right now, and rightfully so, like such sick stuff that's coming out from there. I even, see like Colorado Springs mentioned too. But as far as you guys, was there a local scene when you were younger, just as far as, flourishing? Or I kind of have heard different stories back and forth, but what's your take?
I mean, it depends on like what you're into, because for the sound that I like, there wasn't a whole lot. But
okay.
I mean, Denver's always always had some cool stuff like throughout its like entirety. Like 80s had some really cool bands. 90s even had some cooler stuff. Like Dead Silence. There was also like in Boulder there was a cool like there were some peace punk bands and some like youth crew style bands that had they call themselves the Colorado Crew, and they make these like little fucking compilation 7-inches that were pretty cool.
Sick. Okay.
That's sick.
But yeah, there's always been some cool stuff. But when I was like, like in like I'd say like 14 on, there was like nothing Denver's like at the time was all crust and all grind, and
Okay.
and I was just like, where the fuck is like hardcore? Like, and so I'd go to like these like quote unquote hardcore shows, but it's more like like kind of like current. And at that time, like I said, like 2004, 2005, there isn't a whole lot of like it's just not. It's just more modern and not my thing. Like I saw.
Would you
Okay.
say like camo short hardcore
yeah,
shows?
like camo short hardcore shows for sure. Like
Cargo short hardcore.
Yeah, like that brocore shit.
Yeah. The shit that says
Okay.
it's hardcore, but it's really not hardcore.
Like I go to like because at that time I'm just like picking up flyers, so it's like, all right, man, I'll go check this out, go check that out,
Okay.
and yeah, like I see like Blacklisted or the Warriors and be like, man, this just is not cutting. And yeah, like I go see like Sick of It All, but it's like they're only playing like
New Sick of It All.
New Sick of It All. And then there's like bands like Stretch Armstrong or something that are playing the show too, and you're like, what even is this crap? And there was a lot of just like,
Dude, that was mid-2000s in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until
Totally.
there
Totally.
was like faster bands like Outbreak that I was like, all right, cool, and they and had like more of a horror theme that I could like really get on.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like a band called Kids Like Us that was a little faster, and they had a bunch of like horror references. What else was there? There was a band called Hour of the Wolf that was kind of cool.
I don't remember them.
Trash Talk.
Ceremony.
Ooh. Trash Talk.
2007 Ceremony, that changed the game. I don't care what anybody says. Y'all can all fuck off. Like, that band changed the game when I was 17.
Scared People 7 Inches.
Scared People 7 Inches was one
Yeah.
of the best 7 inches of that
That
time.
thing is still cool, man. I'd say that's like the pinnacle. Very like ominous and dark.
It was very anxious sounding. It was a very anxious sounding record.
Well, it sounds like they like went to the studio and wrote all that shit like in a day, because it all like has like the same like I want to say
Can almost flow to it.
like dissonant chords, and it's very open, so it doesn't sound like they practice it much. It's like, oh yeah, it's a cool beat, let it ride, and then we'll just hit these ugly fucking notes.
We'll just do a Negative FX cover.
Well, that was holy fuck, this band knows one of my favorite bands, because at that time, like, nobody knew that shit. You know what I mean? Nobody was playing the
old Boston shit.
Yeah, the songs that I liked. Like, nobody was ever covering that shit. So it was cool that like some band from California was covering a band from Boston that I really fucked with. So yeah, and like my friend Reed knew those guys. So like when they'd come to town, like they'll go hang and skate or fucking do some riding somewhere on some fucking building. But but yeah, like, that era just really sucked. So it just kind of like lit a fire under my ass to like want to just create what I wanted to see. And that's kind of like all I really did was like, man, these are the sounds I like. This is what I would love to hear and see live. I'm just gonna fucking run with it myself.
Yeah.
And then that's still how it is. Like, nobody does it like how I want it. Like, no one. There's not one dude. There's not like there's not in hardcore. Like, the only band I've ever seen that was a modern band that was like to a T, like everything that I ever wanted was fucking Val Gash.
Val Gash.
Ooh, okay.
That was it. Like, once I fucking found that band, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, even if this second demo is all they make. That is the when I think of hardcore music, that band is the epitome of that. It's gross, it's ugly, it's fucking fast, it's disgusting. It's disgusting music made by ugly fucking people. Shout out Andy. Like for real, there's like a real genuine feel to that band that like, man, very few bands ever really feel like that. Like, you know what, like Poison Ideas, maybe, like, you know, one of them, like, just like people that have been through the shit and look like it. And that's kind of something I think that's like always missing from punk and hardcore is like, you know, just all these like pretty motherfuckers playing this shit that, like, you know, just kind of don't really have anything about them or any kind of background.
No hardships.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you're doing the thing because you're mad at your parents or whatever. Like, you know, whereas like the stuff I like is like usually, you know, just like street kids making street music.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the shit I like. And yeah, Valgas is the only band I think, like, that's the only band that I think like really fucking did it that I was like around for. Because like bands like Cold Sweat and stuff that I got into like a few years, it's like you find this band, find these LPs, and find out they broke up like, you know,
years after the fact.
Yeah, right.
Like, fuck, man, like, you know. So it's like, you know, you're never gonna see that band, you know, and like, so it was like being able to be around with like, you know, watching Valgash and then, you know, like seeing it become what it did. It's, you know, it's very cool because that band is legit. And then, like, you know, like to go back on like something like all those other bands that we just mentioned, like, you know, all those dudes like either changed their sound after a couple records or like totally abandoned hardcore altogether and started a fucking, like, you know, I don't know, fucking cold wave fucking band, or, you know what I mean? Like all these, like, it's just like, you know, these dudes just abandoned their fucking thing. So it's like, man, like this was like, even if you did make a cool record that I admired at the time, it was just a stepping stone. Like this was just some bullshit for you.
Okay.
Or it did what it needed to do and you got over your shit.
Yeah, you just moved on.
But like, I don't know, it's very few bands that like made something cool that continued that legacy or knew it had to just stop it and change their name entirely and then pursue something else, you know. It always drives me nuts when bands like just keep that fucking name for the notoriety and then like totally shift their sounds multiple times. Like, motherfucker, you ain't Prince, motherfucker. Like that's not, you know, you can't just experiment with all this shit and it's like, nah, man, you started out that way, end it. Start something else.
Yeah.
Like, I always, like, for me, it's got to be fresh. Like, don't tarnish the sound that you create. Like
for sure.
That thing with that output with that title. You do something else, you know.
Also, let's be real. Like basic hardcore etiquette. If you're in a hardcore band, that shit should last like 4 years tops. And then, like, if your hardcore band is lasting more, if you're overstaying your welcome, dude, shut that shit off.
Well, it depends too. Like, it's like, you know, like, I don't consider like Cadaver Dog like a band because it's just kind of
just a one-man project that plays shows.
That, like, when life is kind of like, you know, when I'm just kind of at my worst, that's the outlet for it.
You write a record.
And so yeah, so like that's kind of like stuff has to build up throughout time, and so, you know, it's not really. Like, I don't really consider it like, oh, some prolonged thing. It's like, nah, man, it's just something that, you know, it's got to erupt at some point, and it, you know, when it does, it does. So I can't time that shit. But yeah, like, you know, if you're like still touring and I don't know, and it's just off of one fucking record or something, or
hey, dude, if you're like 6 years and you got like one record, or you're like 6 LPs deep, like it's one or the other. Like, let's call it quits, dude. Like.
Too much or too little.
Nobody wants to hear your fucking 6 LP, dude. It's done. Hang it up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, touching on that, like, what comes to mind from like a band that you love this one album, and then they release something, you know, right after that actually like caught you by surprise, and you love that just as much, if not more? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Like old or new? Like, it don't matter.
Anything? Yeah, no. Or if it makes it easier, something heavy-wise.
You know what's funny is like so something like SSD or Wide-Eye, right? Like, so like, you know, you have these older fools being like, all right, man, this is it. It's first 2 records. Don't go beyond it. This one EP, don't go beyond it. Like, anything after, they did the one thing, and that was it. That's the only good thing you do. And then you fucking like, I spent, it took me like, you know, several years by the time I was like, all right, maybe I want to do fucking hear that, you know, that Black Dust LP and see what's up with that.
And then boom.
And then
I
yeah,
liked
it's
it
like,
better.
oh my god, this shit is fucking rotten. Like a
Sick.
fucking wide eye spin on fucking Venom. Like yeah, man, I'm gonna be down with this shit. And it's just like, I was listening to the wrong motherfucker at the time. Like
It's always the worst.
Yeah.
It's always the worst motherfucker. Like people are always like, don't listen to anything beyond From Enslavement to Obliteration by Napalm Death. Dude, Harmony Corruption's the best Napalm Death record. Like just because they started playing like actually structured like death metal songs, like that's the best record.
Oh
Dig it.
yeah, like
I love it.
Like Carcass, man. Like
Oh yeah.
go past symphonies for a long time, and then like hearing the criticism, like, oh my good god, like this is
proper
songwriting. Yeah, this
songwriting.
is their best fucking record, hands down. Like, and
Oh.
like that shit is. It's fun when like you kind of fuck with a band for a long time, and then you dig a little deeper into the discography, and you're like, oh my god, I have missed out on so much good music.
Nope.
Like because somebody just said, like, hey, don't go past that record, man.
Yeah,
but,
I dig it. I dig
there
it.
definitely are some bands where you go past some records, like
What happened?
like back to SSD, right? How We Rock, that record is fucking killer, man. That record is so good. Easily up to par with fucking Get It Away. And if they just called that record The Choice and had more of a, like, had another pus head drawing or something that kind of fit more of the
would have been
SSD
widely
aesthetic,
accepted.
it would have been a hit. It's got this fucking stupid paved road with SSD and gold on it, and it's called How We Rock.
It goes back to your album cover question
Yeah.
earlier.
There you go.
I passed it up.
Principle.
I passed it up. He's like, nah, man, you should listen to it. I'm like, dude, that album artwork alone it sucks ass. Like, and then I went back to it. I was like, okay, this is fine.
Like that intro's so sick, but then you go past that and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't.
Now you want you should have break it up. You should have hung it up.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a funny conversation, whereas like that whole thing, comes up where some cats are like, well, it's more about, what's inside the packaging. You shouldn't judge it off that cover. But like, there are some times, dude, where I'm like, man, this album would be perfect if this cover art just did not suck like it does.
Yeah.
Like, I would be so much more into it, like.
I went to Ting and bought all those dead stock fucking How We Rock records. I was like, all right, motherfucker, I'm gonna rebrand this, repackage it. Oh yeah, it's a crazy SSD bootleg. People were like, what is this? Like, just have a crazy jumping set or that. Like, this is a record that didn't come out.
Crazy bathtub fillet of fish picture.
Oh my god, stupid. That was ridiculous. Josh, now you're initially from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born and pretty much raised my whole entire life.
What was was there a music scene? Was there a lot of stuff happening local to you as far as when you're initially coming into heavier music?
So I grew up in this North Texas town called Wichita Falls. Nothing. They had like local shows at like a VFW hall that was fucking trash, and so I would drive 2 hours to like Dallas Fort Worth to go to shows. Rest in peace, 1919 Hemp Hill. I don't
know what you just said. Don't take it.
It's a very long-standing venue that closed down. And then
someone knows.
I would move to like outside Austin, so I was going to like Chaos and Teos and all those like festivals out there for a while. I lived in San Antonio, went like through their scene. Then I moved to Houston, started Mangled State, and then Texas is a very diverse thing because it's such a big fucking state. There's some things that are cool. I think a lot of it is overshadowed by popularity contests for fucking morons. And so I would just do my own thing. I would book my own shows. I would, just do everything myself. And then I started coming to stuff in Denver, and I liked how a lot of it was run because this dude was like at the forefront of all of it. I liked how he like managed things, and I was like, well, fuck, man, that's how I do shit by myself. But he had a fucking crew of dudes backing and doing it, and it just I couldn't get that. Like I couldn't, make that happen here. So I just thought it made sense to move, you know.
Well,
Oh, okay.
it's like
Oh,
kind of lag there.
there it is.
We got it back.
But yeah, like just like like me and Josh are connected years ago to just like to Mark, like, hey, like there's this band, like they're looking somebody to put out their like demo. I figured you'd be like into it. I'll throw it to you, and then heard the Creeps There demo, and I was like, holy shit. And then like Josh and I just started coordinating, texting, and boom, like been what, like 6-7 years that we've known each other now.
It seems like it's been a fucking lifetime.
Seems like way longer, yeah.
But yeah, like because we were just gonna self-release the demo ourselves because I didn't trust anybody, and the whole thing was like, oh, you should send it to Mark McCoy, like see what the fuck he says, and then he was like, yo, expressed immediate interest. He got me linked up with James. James expressed interest in wanting to put it out, and I was like, I don't trust any other label or any other personalities to put my music out besides these two guys. And so it's either self-releasing it or having them help me, and that pretty much is what happened.
Sick. That rule. Yeah. So I mean, as far as you going to shows in Colorado, is that like you're flying out type situation, coming back in through like a weekend? Like, it seems like it's like a lot of people that do that just to like catch different shows, and which is sick. I mean, that's like certainly says a lot about that community.
Cheap. It was fucking cheap. Like 5-6 years ago, dude, flying Frontier was dirt cheap. Like you could fly round trip for like $45. Like it was nothing. So he would let me know like, yo, such and such is happening, or yo, record release show is happening, and then I'd buy a plane ticket and I'd go. I was going to Denver like 3 times a year since like 2015, 16.
Yeah.
So like every major show I was just flying out for it. I was spending like fucking nothing. I was staying on this couch most of the time. So
sick. Yeah. Where, as far as that, and you kind of mentioned James as far as like the forefront of that, and the bigger push starting. Where was that? What kind of bands were initially that were really kind of getting this interest involved as far as cats flying out and you seeing people from like out of state that you're like, who the fuck are these people? Like, where are you coming from?
Man, it took some time.
Man, like the Wolfpack era.
I said like me and the crew kind of started getting going around like 2008, like really hitting it hard, and then from there it probably didn't really start until like 2015. I'd say like once some of these like records started to drop, like the Dust and Blood, Civilized Dust and Blood EP, when people kind of started to perk their ears up a little more. And then like we just kept dropping stuff. Like then the Culture Shock demo came out. Then like we just kept collectively like doing stuff, and then like our friends like the Negative Degree, they kept putting out EPs and stuff like that, and it just kind of had like some like a little bit of buzz, I'd say, like and I don't really know how that stuff generated because like none of us have really ever been that big about like promoting and stuff.
And this is such a self-isolated city too.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking away from everybody.
Yeah.
And so like isolation bred competition, and everybody was like, yo, like we're better than fucking LA, like we're better than New York hardcore. Like
that was the thing, is I just wanted to like get the bands I wanted to see here.
Yeah.
And if I had to book them or whatever, it's like, well, not just any fucking band's gonna play. Like we're gonna make sure there's good bands on the bill, and
make it worth everybody's time.
Yeah, especially like if I'm gonna book a show, I'm probably gonna put my fucking bands on it. Like I don't care. And at the time, there was no other fucking bands, so like it was always Civilized, Cadaver Dog, Negative Degree. Like all those early shows, it's like whatever touring band, and then those 3 fucking bands.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get like a couple of bands, like random bands, like this band Low Tax that put out a couple demos that was really sick, and just like a hodgepodge of fools, like kids that didn't even really know what punk was. Shitty 4-track recordings, like, oh,
Those
that,
tapes
man.
rule, man.
Those tapes were sick. I thought he was playing hardcore, but like in the best fucking way. And yeah, it was really cool. Like, so like, you know, then we were throwing them on the bill, and then, you know, like there's a couple fools that were like starting these little grind bands, and like one was called Lhasa, and then we were putting them on some bills. And, yeah, man, like there were cool things happening, but like I said, like a lot of those bands, like Low Tax, stuff like that, it's like they start and they stop.
Short-lived.
You know, just always, you know, flash in the pan type things. And that's kind of been Denver's MO for a long time. It's like, you know, you have these sick fucking local bands, maybe get a demo out, and then poof, like, you know, it's done. Yeah, I'd say 2015 is kind of when a lot of people like
took notice.
Yeah, and then it just kept growing from there. And then
that's so cool.
It took a while for kids to kind of start their own fucking bands, though. That was the whole thing. Is like, yo, like if you like what we're doing or whatever, like start your own shit. And
what drew me to it a lot was it started from nothing. There was nothing there, and then the scene created out of nothing. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool, because you see all these cities and like the scenes always kind of recycle and repurpose themselves like over and over through the years, and the scene kind of was like there, but it was kind of on like, you know, life support, so to speak. And then like, you know, his crew of dudes started popping up and creating bands and having shows, and it just started kind of building. And then, you know, look at it now. So
that's the thing is like, man, we really have to dig the fucking well, because like, you know, we're not on the coast and we're not in the Midwest where, you know, there's like a whole bunch of adjacent cities or states, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, you have to fucking like really, I don't want to say stand out, but like you have to make something kind of more, I don't know, man, like, you know, actually like have some oomph to it, and like, you know, just like make a statement even to your own city, because it's like, man, like, you know, I want you guys to like fuck with this more than I want anyone else to.
Yeah,
if you guys would be down with what I'm doing, then and that's how it always is. Like, you know, we used to put like, you know, for the pack by the pack. It's like, yeah, man, like this is for us. Like this is like I don't give a shit about like, you know, LA or fucking New York. Like those towns will have their bands. You know, they'll have every act play through there. Like, fuck that.
Everybody's going to LA.
We don't need any of that. Like, we have our own shit that's better. And that was kind of the attitude. It's like, no, make it worth something. You know, take some time, put some effort, put a whole lot of fucking effort into it, and you know, like, see what comes of it.
And you see the results. The results speak for themselves.
Right. And it's got to be. I mean, honestly, I was thinking probably closer to like 2015, 2016, when my buddy Damien, I was in a band with him for years, and talking to him just about Colorado scene and different things, and Youth Attack and the label, and you know, even more so from the label hearing of the scene that was going on over there, and Wolfpack and Denver and all the different things that were going on too. Like I mean, it's ripping, and it's sick to see now. And I think something that's funny to me is remembering like earlier 2000s. If you went to a show and you saw a band where like there was like the same couple of people and like 3 or 4 of the bands on the bill, I was like, oh man, what are they doing? But like now it's like it's just kind of one of these things where it's like it rips, and then
we talk about this all the time though. But I mean, like, what was DC? You know what I mean?
Same fucking group of dudes.
You know, Wendell was in like how many fucking early DC bands? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, same with Ian. Like, you know, all those dudes were fucking like.
It was the same crew of dudes in like a fucking handful of bands.
Yeah.
And same with Boston. You know what I mean? Like, Boston was just the same, like, small little crew making great fucking music. Like that, like and like even in death metal, like or anything, like, you know, like any you know, grind, you know, anything. It's like, man, there's only a handful of players, and then they all went on to do something, you know, like you know, Terrorizer being fucking half of fucking Morbid Angel. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's always been like this, but
I think it's better. I think less hands in the pot, the better. Like,
yeah, true.
You know, if a group of 4 dudes can make a really sick band, and then you kind of start throwing like maybe 1 or 2 other people and switching instruments around, like, you know, the good ideas will continue to keep going. You know, if you have like a bunch of different motherfuckers like with their hand in the cookie jar, it starts to dilute it and it starts to kind of lose that like, you know, that kept close to the vest kind of feel to it to me. So
I dig that. Yeah, it rules, man. I mean, as far as like one of the things that has always been a draw from the label and through today, through even recently, which we'll kind of get to, is the cover art. We've kind of touched on this already, but you know, touching on some of your guys' records, and just as far as with working with, you know, Mark or outside of. First off, I wanted to touch on. I know we're not going to dig really all that into, but the cover for Pain Game. What can you tell me about this, and what can you tell me about as far as
I
that?
don't know if there's much of a story to tell.
Oh, dude.
Mark just presented it to me one day, and I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." Like,
well, I wanted to say, like, I had this idea.
I was very far
That's
removed
fine.
from the band at that time,
Oh yeah,
and so
yeah, okay.
I was the only person he was going through besides him because he played drums on the record. So he was going through me and him, and like I said, it was very far removed. The band ended, or it was already done at that point, and so Mark was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he'd send me like a shit ton of artwork all the time. And I'm like, yeah, just Xerox that. It's cool, whatever.
Man.
And so, but me, like, it's hard because 2018, when this was all happening, like, I was very disconnected. But looking back, I wish I had more of a, like, input versus just agreeing to anything. Because I think that record is kind of cool. It definitely has a very weird place in my heart as far as, like, I liked what I accomplished. I think there were things I could have touched on a little bit better. I like that one of my best friends like was in that session doing it, but there was like a bunch of other shit like revolved around. So it was a very weird thing.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, even you know, we'll kind of you know dig away from that, and even like with Stigma. What about as far as like with Mangled State with the Stigma record?
Stigma, I just kind of like threw the idea to Mark. I was like, I like you see cover arts of like, you know, a dead body or, you know, the devastation, like the aftermath. And I was like, Mark, like, why don't we document the devastation as it's taking place, like outside looking in of what's happening? And so he was like, okay. And so, like, you know, a lot of that artwork on Stigma is people watching the destruction happening in real time as it's eventually going to come at them, like, within seconds of it happening. And so, you know, you always see artwork, like I said, it's always the aftermath. It's always the dead body or the burnt down building. Like, you know, it's never like it happening in the moment as it's happening. And so that was the concept behind that.
Oh, okay, damn.
Yeah.
You know,
I like the vibe of that shit because it's like very voyeuristic with like like no like it's like these motherfuckers feel like they're like in my translation of the art like you know like they're like I can see it from afar, it's not affecting me, but like little do they know it's gonna affect them. But that's like kind of like how a lot of shit happens. Like, you know, you hear about these like robberies or something like in broad daylight where like, you know, this lady's getting mugged or you know, some guy like, you know, it was a few years ago, some guy choked on a fucking donut outside of a Voodoo Donuts out here, and they like just a bunch of people
just watched him die.
This is a true story?
Yeah, just watched him die.
Oh, here I am laughing. I apologize. I did not catch that on. God.
Voodoo Donuts guy.
Now you just like, you know, like motherfucker, like, oh, look at Fat Dude World Star fucking died.
Yeah, and he died. And then like part of me too, I always see it as like, you know, how people who infiltrate or like, you know, come into hardcore and kind of bleed it dry was the other thing too, is like I liked about the art is like, you know, people watch it crumble because they're just taking from the scene and not really giving anything back, and they're just kind of, you know, letting it kind of bleed out. And so like that was also my interpretation of the artwork, is like, you know, watching people just kind of take your hard work or take, you know, your friend's hard work and just kind of, you know, take it for granted and fucking piss on it and just move on to the next thing. So,
dude, and it's something too, and I wanted to touch on that just because when I got the opportunity to talk with Mark and he brought up these stories that he had listened to when he was younger, as far as with his grandfather and being in the war and some of the trauma and some of the things that he'd like gone through. Anytime that I see anything like that expressed through his art, I always think of, like what may have been going through as far as like inspiration for like those certain pieces. And
Right.
that was one for sure I wanted to touch on, just because I'm like, God damn. But, and I mean, totally striking, to where, next going to Civilized with Dust and Blood. Where can we go with this?
So this one was very cool because we bought this like huge coffee table book, like this war book. I forgot what it's called. I'm usually actually very opposed to this type of shit. I don't like exploiting death. Even though, like, I might like a band that does, or something like Carcass or something.
The traditional power violence art.
But yeah, like, I don't really like kind of like the cliched, like,
Dead soldier.
war clipping, Xerox, band logo, boom, there you go, here's a fucking EP. I like a little more thought or a little more creativity. So if you ever see gore on any of my shit, it's usually staged. Like, it's usually, I made a fucking, skull, I dug the grave, I took the photo, I Xeroxed it then, that type of shit. Because, like, being a fan of horror, like, I love horror movies, but doesn't mean I'm like into watching war footage. Like, there's a difference.
You tell me this now? God damn it. Son of a bitch. All right, sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
12 questions we had.
God damn it. All right, yeah. I sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
And so, like, I mean, we can still build it up, baby. Don't worry. So I'm like, Mark had kind of presented this idea of this book, and I was kind of digging through it, and so I bought this book. I sent it to Mark, and there was a cool photo. The reason why I liked and we chose this photo is because it was an imprint of a body. So it's just like kind of like on that cover on the Dust and Blood, it's just like essentially like a shrapnel chalk line of somebody being like somebody's body was there and is now removed.
Oh shit! Really?
On the floor. Yeah. So.
Damn.
That's kind of cool because it's not
the really actual body.
It's just kind of like the aftermath without having to see the actual violence. It's just kind of, it's even more intriguing to me of like, oh, what happened? Like, like if you're, on a hike or something and see a jawbone on the fucking floor, you're like, how did that get there? Type of thing. And that's kind of like what I liked about how ominous that photo was. It's like, well,
a lot of mystique.
What is even going on here? A lot of people don't even know what the fuck it is. They can't really make out what it is.
Right.
Like, you knowing what it is, I really like it. And then,
damn.
Yeah, like, Mark had, like, he had, like, made the collage in the back of, like, the feet looking at the casket in the ground on the back there.
Okay, right.
I think, like, in the sleeve, or no, it's, like,
when you open the sleeve, it's the casket, and you open it, it's like...
Yeah. But the center labels are, like, it's also from this war book. It's just, like, all these fucking machetes just, like thrown in a huge fucking pile. I just really like that image, so I just, like, yeah, we'll use that for the center label. But, I mean, yeah, that was kind of more of a, like, not... I think that's, like, one of the only pieces that's, like, not really fabricated by us. Like, it was kind of just like something that we bought and repurposed. It's kind of, I don't want to say like lazy, because I mean, we definitely took our time with it, but it was definitely a little more hands off on all parties. But
oh, dude, it turned out sick.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a very striking image.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even kind of touching with you mentioning that with saying striking an image, Pain Incarnate. What comes to mind as far as tossing that together, or that being something that was time staking?
So it was time. It took a lot of time because Mark kept changing the idea, and so he would send me, like, if you've seen the record, like if you pull the record out, there's like a silhouette of a head, and then originally that was going to be the cover. and you'd pull the head
Oh,
back,
really?
and it would all fold out. And so he's like, "Oh, I don't really like this." I'm like, "All right, what do you think?" And so he would send me, he's like, "Well, I'm messing with a lot of layering." So he'd layer a human body on top of dirt, and when you'd open it up, the buildings would open up the rubble, and then you'd pull the silhouette of the person out. And so, like,
God damn.
I
So
was
sick.
like, there was a lot of going on in my life during the writing of that record, and so it came from like a completely different perspective, and so I was like, yeah, like I really like this. Like this feels like how my brain felt after writing this music, and so it was just very jumbled and it was chaotic. It was very chaotic. I was going through like a period of like having a lot of like anxiety and shit. And so I just thought it all fit very well together.
Mm.
And yeah, but I don't have time to go to a doctor. So, but yeah, so it was like, it was just a lot of trial and error. And then he was like, well, what do you think of this? And, I thought it looked really cool. I don't think a lot of people can tell what it is. Because I've had a lot of people be like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, it's a person laying in the dirt, but like there's two layerings of like rubble that make the image. And so, and then
So
they like
sick.
look at it and they're all like, you can tell like, oh yeah, I can see it now. Like it kind of clicks and they're like, okay. But, or at least that's what they
Okay.
say. I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, have you had certain times, like in conversations as far as, seeing something initially and, whether it's Mark or someone else and they're like, I'm just not into this. And you're like, dude, this is it. This is what I want. And, maybe it was the right decision or wasn't the right decision going with something
He
different.
sent me some art before the Pain Incarnate, like what we landed on. And like it was a bunch of and we're like, it was crazy because I like have a poster of this I Hate God like promo poster from like '96 like hanging in my room, and it's like a lady and she's like getting like medical work done, and he sent me something like that, and like he had photoshopped like her face, and she had like all these masks and like stitching, and she was bleeding and shit everywhere, and he's like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like. In my mind, I immediately thought of that, and I was like, "That worked for them, but I don't know if it works for this record." And then I was straight up with him. I was like, I don't really like it. He's like, oh, okay. Like, I'll just go back to the drawing board, And so,
Yeah, I
that
mean, like there's been a few times, like I think it was like the Dust and Blood test press. Mark had mocked up like some kind of silhouette of a guy, and it actually kind of looks kind of like the at death's door for Goodbye World, like the silhouette of the head, kind of looks something
Okay.
similar to that, and for whatever fucking reason, man, he gave this dude like some kind of pompadour, and I was like, yo, just like, like I was like, no, just like it's just like a fucking shaved head or some shit. Like I don't really want like this. Why does this dude have like a fucking gentleman's cut or like a pompadour? Like,
why does this corpse have a nicely shaved head?
yeah, well, I mean,
finally, like, clean him up before they put him in the dirt. Like,
yeah, there's definitely been some times where it's like something doesn't, in my eyes, fit the record, or like sometimes like Mark doesn't think like my idea is like what it should be, and then we'll kind of go back and forth, and there's always like some give and take when you work with others, it's always like constant collaboration, but usually I think the only thing I'm not happy with is probably the Civilized LP, the chopping block LP. Like I love the cover of it,
Oof.
but we staged that
Oh,
photo.
okay.
Well,
Okay.
actually, Mark and Ryan staged that photo, but it was like our idea because I was like, man, I want like some fucking New York Ripper fucking like crazy shit, and
Man.
and they were able to get that photo, and it's great. But then I feel like all the other images that complete the record like are kind of just like, what? Why? Like, why was this the chosen piece?
Okay.
And
Okay.
sometimes, man, like when something's kind of shelled for a while, or not shelled, but like a continuous, like like
working on it.
yeah, like when something's like 2 years deep into the mix, you're just at some point just like, yeah, man, it looks good. Let's call it a day. Like send it off the way.
Big champagne game, perfect example.
That's kind of like how I feel like those other images with Civilized where like we just kind of got them from the photographer Daniel Shea that like took the cover art. He had like these other images, and Mark selected those two, and then I think it was between like me and Mark and the vocalist that we were just kind of like, yeah, like I guess it's fine. I don't know. I kind of wish I would have like came up with almost anything else besides those like because there's 3 images on the record.
The back cover.
Yeah, the back cover and the
sleeve.
And I wish I would have kind of like, nah, we could think of some better shit than this. But I mean, the cover art alone though, like says it all. Like if that cover doesn't like strike you when you're flipping through like the bin or something, and just like even just to pick it up, like what the fuck is this? Like I don't know, man. Like that's one I think that is like one of the best cover arts with the worst back. Like, but
I love it. No, I dig it. I dig it, and I mean I appreciate that too. Out of kind of putting that out of like it was kind of one of those things where it's just at the point of finalizing everything. You're like let's just get it out there. Sometimes those things happen. Shit.
Yeah. Well, like man, like, it takes so long. I mean, back then it took so long, and now it takes even longer.
It takes a fucking lifetime now.
Like, it's just so funny that it's like, these bands burn through themselves so fast. So it's like a 2-year fucking delay on a record. Like, dude, the band's broken up by then. I mean, that's how Culture Shock was. Like, we recorded this fucking record in a legit studio that all like straight to 2-inch tape, and we get this thing, fucking done. We finally get it mixed. We get the art, and by the time it's all said and done, it's like literally 2 years since it was recorded, and the band was fucking like done. The vocalist was like, "Yeah, I'm calling it quits," and then announced it at a show, and none of us knew, and then that was it. Like, oh, okay.
I recall hearing that story. When did you end up hearing that, like that actual information
show?
It was the record release show.
The LP release show.
Actually, he came out for it.
I came out for it, and he's all like, "This is our last song."
And I'm behind him.
He had no idea.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was saying. Okay, so when did you end up hearing that, James?
Yeah.
Is that really your last show? Like,
what are you talking about?
What do you mean that's our last show? And he's like, "No, dude. Jeff said that was it. That was the last show. So you guys were done after this." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Mouthful of food. We're at a diner. He's like,
"What?" And then Jeff was just like, kind of like, I probably shouldn't have even said anything because, like, we eventually wrote more music and played more shows after that. But I was like, it's still like after that though, it kind of killed like I think the vibe.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like when you release something, when you have something finally in hand, you're like, all right, cool. Like we can now finally present this and people know what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of like done. And like, because both those bands were done at like the same time. Civilized
played one more show?
Yeah, we played one more show and that was it.
Damn.
2016.
Both ended like for selfish reasons, just like boom, singer's done, and that was it. And then you're just like, well, all right, well, on to the next fucking thing, I guess. That's why I like fucking spent 2 years writing this record, and then waiting another 2 years for it to fucking come out, and it fucking comes out, and it's like, oh, cool, like all your hard work and effort, like done by the guy
down the
that
drain.
Didn't even write lyrics, like fuck, man.
Yeah.
All this dude had to do was come show up to fucking record and have everybody else write his shit, and then yell on the microphone, and then he gets to fucking pull the target out from all my hard work. Like,
yeah.
Damn, that blows. I mean, so
that's when you just don't ever put yourself in that position again. So
yeah.
Tough lesson
Sure.
learned. Like, all right, cool. This next fucking Cadaver Dog record, ain't nobody playing on it. Like, because that was kind of the thing where I was like, man, like, I got this outfit, I got this live band, it sounds good, they're learning some of the new songs. I think they can fucking, like, I think we can record this whole thing live, because I always love live recordings. I hate things tracked. So I was like, all right, cool, maybe I could do them. But, when that shit happened, I was like, ain't nobody fucking taking my shit away from me again. So I was like, nah, man, I'm just gonna, as much as I can with just myself or a close friend, like that's it.
Yeah,
Because
damn,
like
that
when that stuff
sucks.
happens, it can sour the record. Like I'll never listen to that
Yeah.
fucking. I'll never listen to Chopping Block ever. Can't even fucking get me to listen to that record once. Like,
Oh man.
ain't never gonna happen. And people love that record too. I was like, well, that's like,
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the fuck it sounds like, man. Like, every now and then I'll get like a drum beat stuck in my head and be like, oh, I gotta go play that fucking thing. That was a cool ass beat. But that's about it, man.
Not the actual recording.
Not the recording. No, I'll just go play, like from my memory. But
Okay.
yeah, man. Because like when things end that way,
It's sour. It
yeah,
just
like,
reminds you of a bad
that's,
time.
like,
Yeah.
Creep stare, yeah.
Creep stare for him. Civilized for me.
The
And it just cause,
Chronic, Dr. Dre.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't do it. You know.
yeah,
Can't do it,
Here we
dude.
are.
yeah.
Chronic, civilized, creep stare.
Damn it.
It's the C curse,
Yeah.
dude.
I mean, so and one thing I do love, and kind of with all of these that were mentioned, kind of more or less, the less is more, approach. There's almost like a simplicity to it. But then you have something like the Negative Space record. What I can only imagine, but what can you bring us into as far as the cover art for that thing?
Man, you want to talk about simplicity? That was something that was like legit done in 2 days.
Holy shit,
like,
really?
Like, yeah, Matt told me, like, yo, I'm flying out. My lady's got some work thing. I'm going to go out there and check out Colorado with her. And, we're going to be in Denver. And I was like, cool, man. I'll fucking call into work. And, yo, we should try to cut something. So he was like, all right, cool. I think I had one riff. And I think it was something I wrote for Creep Stare.
Yeah, I remember you sent it to me.
And I had one riff. It's the very first track on that 7-inch that it's that riff. I had that written for Creeps there, but just due to like the time constraints, like we didn't have time like to really like get it going. So I had one song for Creeps there, and then that riff, and then I was like, oh, maybe we could write the rest of the song together. But we just ended up recording the one song that I fully wrote, and then everything else that the band had.
Yep.
So I had that riff kind of just like in the chamber. And, Matt came out, fucking wrote the whole thing, like, in an hour maybe. I cut the drums, and then the bass, and then the guitar, and then did a rough mix, sent it to Matt a whole night. For the rest of the night, he wrote lyrics, came back the next day, we recorded the vocals. That was it. And then...
God damn, really?
Yeah. And, I had some ideas for the art just based off his lyrics. His lyrics are fucking out there. So I started compiling all these drawings I was doing, and I kept submitting them to like Matt and Mark, and I think they just like because my shit's very very primitive. Like I like a certain aesthetic of I'm like a big fan of like late '80s. Early '90s, like thrash and death metal, like demo art. That's kind of how all my shit ends up looking like, and so like that's like kind of the aesthetic. And I had this eye with all these fucking maggots coming out of it, and Mark's like, "Oh, these images are really strong," and that was just kind of different, I think, just because like they were very, just like kind of rudimentary, maybe I don't know, but me and Matt just kind of kept going back and forth, and Matt didn't really want to contribute to drawing anything. Like, I think he was just kind of like had a lot on his plate at the time, and so like Mark suggested that we go to someone else, like a third party, and I was like, oh well, maybe my friend Putrid could do it, and so I kind of just like threw all the drawings I had at Putrid, and he just like really focused in on that eye, and then me and Mark were like, kind of going back and forth about like some EC comics and shit like that. And just kind of like the color palette, we wanted it to be like, something kind of in that vein of like, only certain colors, and it make it, they kind of stand out because, the label's like notoriously known for just Xerox black and white kind of imagery. So we're like, man, this is a weird record. We should make like some weird imagery with it. And he's really took to for that eye with the maggots, and then he kind of like compiled like his own like imagination in it. But I mean, we just got to give him free reign because I mean, Matt can like fucking do some crazy shit. So he really executed it like in such a like I don't know, like it's like a very like weird, vivid dream. It's cool. It's cool, man. But yeah, it was just kind of something that like he pieced together, and then we just kind of like would go back and forth, give notes, and then because it was like kind of the three of us. It was just me, Mark, and Matt, and then we coordinate with Futures, and then
that rip.
Kind of go back and forth, and it was cool, man, because he made like a sketch version of it, and I kind of like the sketch, like because I just like kind of like raw stuff, like it's always like, oh man, like I like I like the the storyboard more than I like the fucking movie. Like, so it's like it was just like like so he did a sketch of it, and I was like, that's fucking killer. And then like we got the fine tuned version, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. But
I mean, and through through the years of just seeing different releases and being a part of a lot of different things, but as far as fans, even first and foremost, what's something that comes to mind, maybe even one or two that are personal favorites to you guys as far as from the label and just cover art that comes to mind?
Man, that Squirm LP, man.
Oh,
LP is
dude,
unfucking touchable. That was one of the few records that was like color from such a fucked up band.
That photo is like
that band was fucked up.
That photo is so sick though, man. Like I love that fucking miserable looking motherfucker. Like,
he was sick. Did you know that? Yeah. The backstory, he had the flu during that photo shoot. So that's why
really?
he looked so fucking like just defeated because he had like the flu.
Is this like a local cat or what? I mean, I don't want names or anything like that, but
I don't know the guy. I think he was just one of like the photographer Kelly DeWitt's like friends, and I think they were just like, well, you're kind of here. Like, why don't you throw this shit on?
Put a clown outfit on him, and he had the flu, and they took those pictures. It all fits. That shit was crazy.
Dude.
Nightmare Damaged Brain artwork's fucking. That artwork is gnarly.
It's perfect.
Even
the fucking the Life Rod 7-inch, man. Like
the prison door.
That fucking photo, man. That cover art, like I don't know what it is, but it's
chilling.
It's very chilling for sure.
That's sick.
Man, if I saw that just like flipping, I'd immediately pick that up. Like, that's something that would stand out to me.
That's why I picked that record up.
Yeah,
because of that artwork is so insane.
I mean, even kind of, and this is kind of like a weird turn, but like as far as your guys's approach, playing, it's something I like to touch on, just as far as for different musicians or even myself, going to play live, as opposed to practicing and recording. What kind of goes into you prepping yourself for playing in front of people? Is there a sense of nerves? Is there something you kind of have to do to help yourself go out and play? How does that generally roll for you?
I put myself in a bad mood for the entirement of the day. I'm in the worst mood ever. I went during the Infest show earlier that day. My fiance and my brother went to lunch. And what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't want to fucking talk. I'm just not in a very positive headspace right now. So I just
I have to like for Cadaver Dog to play or something, like I have to be. It's one thing if I'm just playing, like if I'm playing an instrument,
different.
I'm fine. Like if I can hide behind the drums or behind the guitar, I don't fucking care. Like the second the notes hit, like I'll like
you're in it.
Like I'm in it. But a lot of stuff has to kind of build up for me to want to even because I honestly I hate playing shows. That's the biggest chore, the worst aspect of
it's such a bitch.
Being in a band. Like I hate shows.
Even verse recording.
I'll record all day.
I hate recording.
I'll record all day, then go play a show. Fucking hate playing a show.
That's what I like to do. Like that's what I live for. Because it's so to me, I have a blast with it. But man, like playing a fucking show, being like some tap dancing, look at me, motherfucker. Like, you know, like it's like some weird, grotesque way of entertainment. Like it just.
You're literally
know,
throwing
like,
a temper
like
tantrum on
like
stage in front of like a
man,
room
like,
full of people.
I don't know, man. I really don't like it. And a lot of stuff though, like a lot of stuff has to go wrong for Cadaver Dog to play. You know what I mean? Like, and there has to be some time things have to build up because there's no like, you know, like that band can never tour, not because like of our schedules or lives, but because like I couldn't do that. Like because like yeah, maybe the first show I did everything out that was built up. So by the second show, it's like, what am I just phoning this in? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like my bands are like inherently negative because of they're our fucking outlet for our day to day lives. So there's it's not there's no to me there's no like
this
you know,
isn't
like,
fun.
Yeah, it's not like,
fun.
When we're out there, it's not a fun thing. Like, there's no. It's not like man, we did great. It's like no, dude, we're here to like put this shit to bed. Whatever we had going on, like it's here to fucking like you know I'm here to unleash myself on you. It's not. This isn't like it's more for me than it is for anybody else. Like you know I'm here to fucking you know rid myself of all this.
It's cathartic in a sense, but it like it takes a lot emotionally, I guess. And so, you know, I won't ever tour again. I hate touring. I think touring like really fucking sucks. Like I've been on very successful tours and I've been on very shitty tours. They're all the same to me. It's all just there. I mean, it was fun. It was fun when I was, you know, in my early 20s, but in my 30s, it's not what I want to do.
Especially like playing the fucking States, like everything's homogenized. So it's like, oh, what? We're all gonna go to the same. Like I'm gonna see the same fucking strip mall that I had in Denver in your city. Like, you know, there's not like a whole lot to like, especially like through this music. I'll say through my experience, there's very little reward throughout playing shows. There's very like little.
There's very little reward playing this type of music in general.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, and that's not why we do it.
No,
like, we do it because like it's something that we kind of like essentially feel we have to, but it's like at some point when you're kind of like you've been losing money and time pouring your energy into this, it's like all right, man, well, what do I like and what don't I like? Because whatever I don't like, I'm not doing anymore. And for me, that's fucking
right.
Like,
no.
No, I'm not talking.
It's a whole day process.
Shows to me just get in the way of everything.
Yeah.
Like if we're getting together and just practicing the fucking set for weeks on end and be tight for this one fucking show, that like man, we could have written a whole new record by the time that show comes.
Yeah.
Fuck
I've never thought of it that way.
Like fuck that. Like going over the same fucking songs. Like,
it's true though.
Like,
it is.
You can write it a whole lot for the amount of times that Mangled State got together to prep for a show. We could have written like 4 fucking LPs, like, and we're practicing the same fucking set of songs over and over. And I'm having to be like the fucking dickhead by being like, "Oh, it's not played right," or "Oh, it could be played better," or "Oh," and like I hate doing that. I don't want to do that, so I just don't want to play shows.
I mean, maybe that's like a tip for someone or for you guys or for anybody, you know, listening or hearing this that like, hey, while you're practicing through your set, like at the very end or maybe in the middle to kind of keep it entertaining, start writing something new. Make it a little more
but I just don't,
a little more
trust
tolerable.
Anybody.
Or just don't play your fucking set, write some music. Man, like
touche.
Like in all seriousness, like I hate people. I hate getting up. I hate any social aspect of all of this shit. Even this is like really fucking irritating. Like just to like because you're not here. You know what I mean? Like even this like drives me up a wall. It's like fuck this. Like. No offense or anything.
No, dude, I dig it. That's good.
It's just,
go off.
It's like one of those things, man. Like when all eyes are on you and all this shit, you don't know how many times, like even just first fucking note,
you make eye contact with somebody, it's like, man, if I could just be.
If this whole room would burn down right now, I'd be fine.
Yeah,
Like,
like either get me the fuck out of here or just have the whole thing cave in on us because this sucks. Like,
I mean,
I truly
so
like I'm not an entertainer. Like I'm not like there's just so many things. Like, man, like we were at a show the other night. Like I don't know, man. And when you get like the fucking Red Cross, Greenpeace motherfuckers sitting there being like, "Oh, we have merch in the back," like get the your sales pitch, everything, like just fuck all. Like God, if I could just remove myself from this situation instantly, I would. Get me out of it.
I mean, and it's interesting. I mean, touching on that and kind of making like that mention too, like prior to finding music or prior to finding like this outlet, what did you have before that? And if you hadn't found music or you hadn't found this outlet, what do you think would it have been skating that would have been, kind of like the draw to
skating
the
was
negative
the
energy?
Sure.
Skating was the outlet.
But I mean, it would have been the same thing
because I hate skateboarding now. I think skateboarding culture is fucking stupid. I think skateboarding is not the same as it was 10 years ago. I probably just sound like a
no,
man, but
no.
Well, it's like whenever you're like into some sort of like counterculture thing, right?
Against the grain.
Like you're in it intentionally because it's not what
society's
it's
standard.
It's not what the I don't know. It's not for everyone. So when it's something that's like appealing to you or whatever, and then it kind of like branches out, it loses its edge, and that's kind of how it always has to be. Like if let's say for anything like even like let's say I don't know, man, like any band pretty much that like ends up getting some kind of like big notoriety and makes a name for themselves, they immediately start to make more palpable things. It's the same thing with art and skateboarding and anything. When something gets kind of
when skateboarding started,
when something is obviously profitable, it becomes more commercial,
right?
And when it's more palpable for the masses to digest, it loses its edge. Like that's basic life. And that's kind of happened to like anything that I've kind of like horror, fucking skateboarding, music, all these things kind of just end up like, and it goes in waves. So I don't know how many like Instagram thoughts are out there wearing fucking horror shirts and shit, and you're like, what the fuck? Like why? Like internet alt girls or just like anything at all. It's just like it's like it's clearly not genuine and it's more of an act. And when you see that shit, it just kind of waters down what you like. But if you stay away from this stuff, and just kind of like not like stay in your own bubble, but like if you kind of like don't pay attention to the endless fucking scroll, like you can still enjoy what you like and not let other things affect it. But
when everything becomes a novelty, it's not fun anymore. When skateboarding was starting to be sold in the mall, I was like, oh, this fucking sucks. Like I can buy skateboards at the mall, or I can buy hardcore records at the motherfucking Sam Goody or whatever record store. And I was just like, okay, like in the mall, like when everything became commercial, it kind of took the fun out of it for me. And that I think that's how I see a lot of the shit now. Like I said, once it becomes a novelty and it's not really like, I hold this so close, this stuff means a lot to me. I don't really see it like that anymore because, it's just not, it doesn't seem that much more special anymore.
And it's not it's not like really an elitist thing. It's more so of like a quality thing. Right?
Yeah, totally. And I get that.
Like when something, starts to kind of dumb itself down, it's like, well, then it's no longer appealing to me. And it's not that it's like, oh, yeah, because, Johnny Come Lately at the street fucking is repping it. It's like, no, it's because, it's literally at the lowest common denominator now, and that's why Johnny Come Lately's into it. That's why
That's true, yeah.
And it's not just because, like, oh,
if everybody likes it, then if more than 10 people like it, I can't like it. Like,
Right.
no, it's not that at all. It's like if there's like a quality output and a real sincerity to it, like I don't know, like it, like you could see when things feel real and raw, and when it doesn't feel that way anymore, it's time for me to move on.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, what from this point, like what has kind of grown your interest or drawn your interest as far as musically that maybe even recently you've been working on, or something that you've thought of recently thought of that might be a little bit out of your wheelhouse that you might be kind of diving into as far as musically.
Oh, I mean, from here on out, like it's definitely like I want to just push sounds to
As far as you can
as
push.
far as I can, like to extremes. Like not to like alienate anybody or anything, but it's like this is just what I want to hear and what I want to do.
Because no one else is pushing it. I think everybody's in a very stagnant place as far as writing like hardcore. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, these people can't do shit. It's just like I want to push further because I don't think anybody else is doing it.
Well, my whole thing is like I'm not even hearing what I want to. Like nothing's coming close to anything that
I want to hear.
So,
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna create the sounds I want to fucking hear.
Right. Yeah.
So like if I could take all the rotten, the most nasty ends of hardcore, grind, and death metal, and combine my influences and see where it goes. Like that's kind of where we're both at.
Just
like,
pushing extreme sounds.
Yeah, like we have a few things in the works, and I mean we still have other stuff that we're working on, like that's
For
kind
Youth
of,
Attack and shit.
Like, but I mean, from here on forward, it's only gonna get more nastier. Like it has to be like just extreme if I'm gonna fucking continue.
Like if you want to be
I want
real,
I want to challenge myself. Like,
yeah.
See, like like at this point, it's like I mean, I could write these. Like I could write 20 fucking Civilized records if I wanted to, or you know what I mean, like whatever it is. Like I can keep these sounds going for days, but like
where's the challenge?
Like it's like if I could do that shit in my sleep, then what can't I do? That's what I want to do. Like, like what can I play right now? Well, I'm gonna start today so I can do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean?
Right.
That's where I want to be. It's like man, like so yeah, we'll continue to like push ourselves in the shadows and do our thing, when no one's watching, and then we'll come back with some crazy shit, hopefully.
The stuff that's coming soon on Youth Attack is definitely in the stages of pushing those sounds of hardcore.
I'd say the next few outputs from us on the label
are very fucking gnarly.
If it's from a fucking already established name, like it's definitely setting the bar. Like it's moving the goalposts. Like we're constantly trying to amplify these bands, and I think these next outputs, like we really accomplished a lot of stuff.
A lot of people, I always see a lot of talk of like, oh, Youth Attack didn't put anything out. Like, what's this label doing? And it's just like we're continually trying to push the bar, and
otherwise, what's the point?
There's no point.
I mean, man, you can fucking play that mid-tempo shit all day. It ain't fucking doing anything for me. Like, you want to do that shit and do that pogo beat, like, what the fuck ever, bro. Like, I want something, like, legit. Like, I want something challenging, and I want something to where I'm like, damn, man, play that shit again. I don't even know what the fuck those dudes were doing. You know what I mean? Just like, the Kreutzer and Siege. Like, wait, hold on. Run it back. Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Like that's
Damn.
So the next.
That's sick. I love hearing that.
Yeah, the next things we have, I think, are definitely elevating the sounds that we've kind of conjured up, and I think it'd be worthwhile. But I mean, who's to say really? But I mean, like I think if you're already a fan of what we have, you'll probably be way more into this because it's only like
it's still in the same It's still in the same wheelhouse. It's just it's elevated. The sounds are a little more elevated. They're a little grosser. They're a little faster. They're a little more nastier. Like as far as if we're talking Youth Attack, but if like the stuff that we're gonna start doing, it's even pushing the boundary further. And so, but I've gone so long without a challenge, and I want to challenge myself. And I know I could probably speak for you in the same, you know. So it's all about challenge. Like, what's the point?
I'd say like the upcoming releases were challenging for those periods.
Yeah.
Like, man, this next Goodbye World record is the same. This next Cadaver Dog record, this fucking Mangled State joint is like,
It's been
oh my god!
It's been 2 years.
It's
the final nail in the coffin. It's been 2 years in the making. 20 fucking songs. Each song is an onslaught after another.
Dude, it is pummeling. To for me as a fan, like to have something like that coming out and like even just having a little bit of help, like, you know, being able to like have a helping hand in it. I'm fucking like super excited for this thing to come
Damn.
out. Like,
But we're just writing records that we want to listen to, because I typically hate listening to shit that I record, and like with the new Mangled State record, it's just like I could listen to this because nothing is scratching that itch, you know.
Yeah,
And so
I mean, with that, like, where is a high point as far as like your recording where you have listened back to or hear something, you know, maybe pop up randomly and you're like, man, this rules. This is sick. Yeah. Obviously, you just mentioned the new Mangled State, so.
Blunt Force Trauma record.
Man.
Like those 3 little songs, man. That to me was like one of the first outputs that I was like, holy shit! I actually like found the sound.
Yeah.
That like I did it. I finally got it.
Dude,
like,
from the first
after
feedback,
after all this 4-track like you know messing around, like I finally figured out what works. That and you know like this new there's new stuff in the works that's recorded that's you know in the final stages. I don't really know if I could like say really what bands, but like let's just say like I've used what I've done with that Blunt Force Trauma and I've just been kind of like just fine tuning that process of working with my 4-track and man like these next few recordings like man like there's a new life support that's done that I think that like I could probably listen to just the instrumentals on that like on repeat like those songs
dude
are
yeah he sent those to me. They're fucked.
The recording
like
is so
damn
fucking perfect too. Like I don't know man like but I'd say like Blunt Force Trauma was the first thing that I was like yo this thing like this sound is the sound like, this is what I've been kind of reaching for.
I mean, from that initial demo to Blunt Force, like, was the 4-track like the major difference, or was it something as far as like your approach to it, or what was the difference?
So, like, sometimes things are just kind of like, man, like I swear to God, you could set that 4-track up the same way and still get a different fucking sound every time.
Oh,
so
okay.
like,
but that's not a bad thing, really.
Right.
It's like the difference from the demo. I think the demo is just kind of more so me not really knowing the equipment that well. So just kind of like figuring it out as I was going. Whereas like by the time I got to Blunt Force, I had already recorded a bunch of tapes and a bunch of shit, like you know, a bunch of solo stuff. In between both those recordings, I was like, oh shit, I know what I'm doing now. And so I think that's probably just a little more, you know, being a little more familiar with it and kind of like
fucking around with it a little bit more and more familiar with it. Okay. Sick. Yeah. I mean, from the different times of messing with the 4-track, I mean, I totally get what you mean as far as like just capturing an exact moment as opposed to like it being something that you're going to be able to reproduce the next day. You know, you go to pull it back and it's like, fuck, what happened to yesterday, dude?
I mean, I feel that, man. I've been taking photos of the settings.
Still different.
And I'll set everything up exactly, and I'm like, why does this sound like, you know, like, why does the mic sound way more hot this first take And this second one, like it's totally different. I don't know, man.
That's why I try to knock
Wild.
out like entire sessions
Yeah,
because I have the same 4-track as him. I'm like, we have to knock if we're doing something, we have to knock an entire session out. Because when we come back to this shit tomorrow, it ain't gonna be the same. So that the whole Mangled State like drum and bass was cut in a day. 24 songs were cut in one day.
Damn.
Yeah. So
And you said only 20 of them made
20
it?
of them are the LP and 4 of them are just re-records and covers.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Whoa.
probably all I'm gonna fucking.
I'll cut that part out. You know what I'm saying? I'll go ahead and
you
edit
can,
this.
you know, it don't matter. It'll be unleashed in the world at some point anyway.
I'm sure everything under the sun will, see the light of day. Like,
Just
all
wetting
those
whistles,
songs.
I guess, right now.
Yeah. No, I dig it. I dig it, man. That's awesome. And honestly, like we're already just about 2 hours, with this conversation.
Has it really been 2 fucking hours?
I'm not trying to keep you guys all night. This has absolutely been so sick, dude. I honestly I want to keep on with things, and I try to keep at about an hour, with these just to not completely drag out,
2 hours.
cats. But
We
sick,
don't
man. I love hearing this stuff.
Hey,
I'm a fan.
man, I'm on vacation. We're on vacation now. It's fine.
It's up to you.
Hey, it's up to you.
Well, if anything, honestly, because I kind of have things going to, we can stop at that point and kind of leave the whistles wetted, if you will, and we can pick back up once some things start popping out if you guys have the interest. This has been so sick, dude.
Yeah,
I love
sick,
hearing
man.
this.
This is cool.
Awesome. Awesome.
Anything pressing, like anything that you like, a quick thing that you wanted to hear from either one of us? Any questions that you've been waiting to ask?
Man, dude, there's a
just
lot.
Ramble on, so like I didn't even realize 2 hours went by. So
honestly, I mean, obviously, with digging into work, into recording, into processes, and then you mentioned horror movies. And I'm just like, this is going to be a whole other conversation. There's going to be another 2 hours worth of shit going back and forth. So, so yeah. If anything, we can keep this here for right now, and then we can rekindle this maybe in the next couple of months, or even something when you guys have something going as far as like a newer release.
Yeah,
and
I'm cool with it.
Let's kick it, man. This has been so sick. Thank you. Honestly, thank you very much for stopping by today and taking the time. This has been awesome, guys.
Thank you for
thank you for having us, man. This has been sick.
Not too many people care enough to reach out, so
no.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I'll have this for anybody, who jumped in a little bit late. I'll have this edited on YouTube. I'll get it, jump started up here and within like the next month or so, and have it up on the YouTube channel and promote it and everything. And then we'll touch base from there. Get some new stuff coming out, man.
Good, man.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, you guys take care. Have a good night.
Man.
Appreciate the time again. See ya.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.